Hey, welcome back. We are in our final part of our three-part series, Witchy Ways to Celebrate Yule or Winter Solstice, and today we are focusing mostly on kitchen magic. First thing we're going to make is this eggnog cheesecake, and let me tell you that the magic is baked all the way through this. So we start off by making these sugared decorations on top. So I've got some rosemary here, and make sure when you put your rosemary in, you let it cool for a little bit or it's going to turn your rosemary brown. So you're doing equal parts sugar and water and then putting your decorations and things that you want to put in there. So I have rosemary, I have orange, and I have cranberries. Put them into that simple syrup. Make sure it's cooled all the way so that you don't mess them up and make them look kind of ugh. And then afterwards, we're going to set them on a sheet or of some sort, a mesh thing to sort of strain them and let them dry for an hour before coating them in sugar crystals. Now the rosemary here represents purification, protection, longevity, and love, while the cranberries represent healing and abundance. The oranges represent joy and renewal. Next, we move on to the crust, and the crust is made with crushed ginger snaps. And ginger carries the magical properties of courage, success, healing, and manifestation. And make sure as you're working the crust, you're working in your intention as well. Now, I stumbled on this recipe as I was trying to find something to bring to a get-together, so I'll make sure to leave the full recipe linked below. If you're not familiar with making cheesecakes, I make one every year, but make sure that you look up the water bath method or the method where you put a little bit of hot water into the pan so that it keeps it from cracking. It cools on the counter for 8 hours and then into the fridge overnight. And the next morning, make this delicious bourbon whipped cream to top it with, and then place your crystalled goodies on top. Make sure that you are infusing your intention, and look at the symbolism here, making a circle, making a ring. Look at all of the things that go into this and how each one can be a symbolic act of magic. One of our favorite desserts around this time of year is a Yule log cake or a bûche de Noël. I have a hard time finding them to purchase where I live or to order one from a bakery, and I am not brave enough quite yet to make one of my own. So I made a cheater cake and combined a couple different recipes to come up with what turned out to be quite a delicious Yule log or Yule stump rather cake. So I did end up making a chocolate sponge cake, which was 3 layers total, and then filling that with chantilly cream. The chocolate cake recipe that I used, and I'll link it below, called for adding coffee along with Dutch cocoa, which I have to tell you was a really great addition, a great combination to this cake. Chocolate carries the magical properties of love and passion, healing and happiness, and grounding. Just like with any magical work that you do, kitchen magic has so much symbolism in it. So every single action that you take can become a part of your spell. And I used a similar recipe for the frosting on the outside as I did the inside. So it's still a whipped cream type of frosting, but I did this one with that Dutch processed cocoa powder, and it made it so rich and dark, and it made it look a lot like a Yule log. I'm using this type of scraper here to give it some texture, but you could also use a fork to give it that wood grain bark look of a texture. And to decorate this cake, I found one on Pinterest that I really liked what they had done and tried to replicate it. So I'm using some chopped up pistachios to give it the look of moss, some flakes of coconut to give it some of that snow look. And I did try to make meringue mushrooms, and it did not go as planned. So I ended up just adding some decorative mushrooms that were not edible, but still looked beautiful and brought in the symbolism of the season. This season has been so hectic this year that I didn't get a chance to film myself taking down and setting up our altar, but I still wanted to give you a tour. So I have some seasonal fruit as always. I have our Earth Mother statue, which comes in the fall. And then I also have our Yuletide countdown. That's with those little drawers in the back. Here are some of our favorite books. I will link a blog post that I have that includes these books that are associated with Winter Solstice or Yule. And of course, plenty of candles to bring in the light. I hope you have a wonderful winter solstice, Christmas, Yule, whatever it is that you celebrate. Blessed be.